Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Chapter 12. The Patronus. Harry knew that Hermione had intended well, however that didn't forestall him from being irritated with her. He had been the proprietor of the satisfactory broom in the International for some short hours, and now, because of her interference, he failed to recognize whether he would ever see it again. He was positive that there was nothing wrong with the firebolt now, but what kind of country would it not be in as soon as it had been subjected to all varieties of anti-jinx tests? Ron became livid with Hermione too. As far as he was concerned, the stripping down of a new firebolt became nothing much less than criminal harm. Hermione, who remained satisfied that she had acted for the first class, started out avoiding the not unusual room. Harry and Ron supposed she had taken refuge within the library and didn't attempt to influence her to come back. All in all, they were glad when the rest of the college again shortly after New Year, and Gryffindor Tower became crowded and noisy again. Wooden sought Harry out at the night time earlier than time period began. "Had an amazing Christmas?" he said, after which, without expecting an answer, he sat down, reduced his voice, and said, "I've been doing some thinking over Christmas, Harry. After remaining fit, you recognize. If the Dementors come to the subsequent one, I imply, we cannot come up with the money for you to nicely." Timber broke off, searching awkward. "I am operating on it," stated Harry Speedy. "Professor Lupin said he'd train me to keep off the Dementors. We should be beginning this week. He stated he'd have time after Christmas." "Ah," stated Wood, his expression clearing. "Nicely, if so, I simply failed to need to lose you as seeker, Harry." "And have you ordered a new broom butt?" "No," said Harry. "What?" "You would better get a full-on, you understand, you cannot ride that. Capturing celebrity against Ravenclaw." "He were given a firebolt for Christmas," said Ron. "A firebolt?" "No." "Significantly? A real firebolt?" "Don't get excited, Oliver," said Harry gloomily. "I have never were given it, anymore. It became confiscated." And he explained all approximately how the firebolt became now being checked for jinxes. "Jinxed? How ought to it be jinxed?" Sirius Black, Harry stated wearily. "He's alleged to be after me. So McGonagall reckons he would possibly have dispatched it. Waving aside the statistics that a famous murderer was after his seeker, Wood stated, but Black couldn't have sold a firebolt. He's on the run. The entire country searching for him. How could he simply walk into first-class Quidditch substances and purchase a broomstick?" "I know," stated Harry, "however McGonagall nonetheless wants to strip it down." Timber went light. "I will go and speak to her, Harry," he promised. "I will make her see. Motive. A firebolt, a real firebolt, on our group. She needs Gryffindor to win as plenty as we do. I'll make her see experience. A firebolt." Lessons began once more the following day. The ultimate aspect all of us felt like doing became spending hours at the grounds on an uncooked January morning, but Hagrid had supplied a bonfire complete of salamanders for their amusement, and they spent an strangely proper lesson gathering dry wooden and leaves to preserve the fire blazing while the flame-loving lizards scampered up and down the crumbling, white-warm logs. The first divination lesson of the brand-new time period was lots less amusing. Professor Trelawney turned into now coaching them palmistry, and she or he misplaced no time in informing Harry that he had the shortest lifestyles line she had ever seen. It was defense in opposition to the dark arts that Harry became eager to get to. After his verbal exchange with Timber, he wanted to get commenced on his anti-Dementor instructions as soon as possible. "Ah yes," said Lupin, while Harry reminded him of his promise on the stop of sophistication. "Permit me see, How about 8 o'clock on Thursday evening? The records of magic study room need to be large sufficient. I will have to assume cautiously approximately how we are going to do this. We can't convey a actual Dementor into the fort to practice on. Still seems sick, would not he? Stated Ron as they walked down the corridor, heading to dinner. What do you reckon's the problem with him? There has been a loud and impatient "tuh" from in the back of them. It changed into Hermione, who had been sitting on the feet of a match of armor, repacking her bag, which turned into so full of books it wouldn't near. And what are you two-taying at us for? Stated Ron irritably. Nothing, stated Hermione in a lofty voice, heaving her bag lower back over her shoulder. Sure, you were, said Ron. I said I'm wondering what is wrong with Lupin, and you. Well, isn't it apparent, stated Hermione, with a look of maddening superiority. If you don't need to inform us, do not, snapped Ron. Nice, stated Hermione haughtily, and she or he marched off. She doesn't recognize, said Ron, staring resentfully after Hermione. She's simply seeking to get us to speak to her again. At 8 o'clock on Thursday night time, Harry left Gryffindor Tower for the records of magic classroom. It changed into darkish and empty whilst he arrived. However, he lit the lamps together with his wand and had waited best 5 minutes whilst Professor Lupin grew to become up, carrying a huge packing case, which he heaved onto Professor Bin's table. What's that? Stated Harry. Another boggart, stated Lupin, stripping off his cloak. I have been combing the fortress ever in view that Tuesday, and really happily, I discovered this. One lurking internal Mr. Filch submitting cupboard. It is the nearest we will get to a real Dementor. The boggart will develop into a Dementor whilst he sees you, so we will be able to exercise on him. I will save him in my office whilst we're no longer using him. There may be a cabinet below my table, Hill. Like okay, said Harry, seeking to sound as even though he wasn't nervous at all and merely satisfied that Lupin had observed one of these suitable alternative for a real Dementor. So Professor Lupin had taken out his personal wand, and indicated that Harry need to do the equal. The spell I'm going to try and train you is relatively superior magic, Harry, well past normal wizarding stage. It is referred to as the Patronus allure. How does it work? Stated Harry nervously. Well, when it really works successfully, it inspires a Patronus, said Lupin, which is a type of anti-Dementor, a father or mother that acts as a guard between you and the Dementor. Harry had an unexpected vision of himself crouching in the back of a Hagrid's-ized determined conserving a large club. Professor Lupin persevered. The Patronus is a kind of fantastic pressure, a projection of the very things that the Dementor feeds upon: wish, happiness, the desire to survive, but it cannot sense melancholy, as actual people can, so the Dementors cannot harm it. But I must alert you, Harry, that the allure is probably too advanced for you. Many certified wizards have issue with it. What does a Patronus look like? Said Harry interestingly. Each one is particular to the wizard who conjures it. And how do you conjure it? With an incantation, so as to work most effective if you are concentrating, with all of your may, on a single, very satisfied memory. Harry forged his mind about for a satisfied memory. Without a doubt, not anything that had took place to him on the Dursleys changed into going to do. In the end, he settled on the instant while he had first ridden a broomstick. Proper, he stated, looking to bear in mind as exactly as possible the wonderful, hovering sensation of his stomach. The incantation is that this Lupin cleared his throat. Expecto Patronum. Expecto Patronum, Harry repeated underneath his breath, Expecto Patronum. Concentrating tough on your glad memory? Oh yeah, said Harry, quickly forcing his mind return to that first broom experience. Expecto Patrono, no, Patronum, sorry, Expecto Patronum, Expecto Patronum. Something whooshed suddenly out of the end of his wand. It gave the look of a wisp of silvery gas. "Did you spot that?" said Harry excitedly. "Something befell." "Very good," stated Lupin, smiling. "Proper, then equipped to try it on a Dementor?" "Sure," Harry stated, gripping his wand very tightly, and stepping into the middle of the abandoned lecture room. He tried to maintain his mind on flying, however something else saved intruding. Any 2D now, he may hear his mom once more, but he shouldn't assume that, or he would pay attention her again, and he did not need to, or did he? Lupin grasped the lid of the packing case and pulled. A Dementor rose slowly from the field, its hooded face became toward Harry, one glistening, scabbed hand gripping its cloak. The lamps round the classroom flickered and went out. The Dementor stepped from the box and started out to sweep silently toward Harry, drawing a deep, damn breath. A wave of piercing cold broke over him. Expecto Patronum. Harry yelled. Expecto Patronum. Expecto. However, the schoolroom and the Dementor were dissolving. Harry changed into failing. Once more by a thick white fog, and his mother's voice turned into louder than ever, echoing inside his head. "Now not Harry. Not Harry. Please, I will. Do whatever. Stand apart. Stand apart, female. Harry." Harry jerked again to existence. He became mendacity flat on his again on the ground. The schoolroom lamps were alight once more. He failed to need to ask what had befell. "Sorry," he muttered, sitting up and feeling cold sweat trickling down at the back of his glasses. "Are you all proper?" stated Lupin. "Sure." Harry pulled himself up on one of the desks and leaned in opposition to it. "Here," Lupin exceeded him, "a chocolate frog. Eat this earlier than we attempt. Once more. I failed to expect you to do it your first time. In truth, I'd were astounded if you had." "It is getting worse," Harry muttered, biting off the frog's head. "I may want to pay attention her louder that time." "And him Voldemort." Lupin regarded paler than standard. "Harry, if you do not need to hold, I'm able to greater than understand." "I do," stated Harry fiercely, stuffing the relaxation of the chocolate frog into his mouth. "I've got to. What if the Dementors flip up at our fit? In opposition to Ravenclaw? I can't manage to pay for to fall off again. If we lose this game, we've got lost the Quidditch Cup." "All proper then," stated Lupin. "You may want to select other memory, a glad memory, I mean, to pay attention on. That one does not appear to have been sturdy enough." Harry idea tough and determined his emotions. Whilst Gryffindor had received the Residence Championship ultimate year, had genuinely qualified as very happy. He gripped his wand tightly once more and took up his position inside the center of the lecture room. "Ready?" said Lupin, gripping the container lid. "Ready," said Harry, trying hard to fill his head with glad thoughts about Gryffindor prevailing, and no longer dark thoughts. Approximately what become going to manifest when the container opened. "Go," stated Lupin, pulling off the lid. The room went icily cold and darkish. Yet again. The Dementor glided ahead, drawing its breath. One rotting hand was extending closer to Harry. "Expecto Patronum." Harry yelled. "Expecto Patronum. Expecto Pat." White fog obscured his senses. Massive, blurred shapes had been shifting round him. Then came a brand new voice, a man's voice, shouting, panicking. "Lily, take Harry and pass. It is him. Move. Run. I'll preserve him off." The sounds of a person stumbling from a room, a door bursting open, a cackle of excessive pitched laughter. Harry. Harry, wake up. Lupin changed into tapping Harry difficult on the face. This time it turned into a minute before Harry understood why he became lying on a dusty classroom floor. "I heard my dad," Harry mumbled. "It's the primary time I've ever heard He tried to take on Voldemort himself, to present my mum time to run. For it, Harry suddenly realized that there had been tears on his face mingling with the sweat. He bent his face as low as possible, wiping them off on his gowns, pretending to do up his shoelace, in order that Lupin wouldn't see. "You heard James?" said Lupin in an extraordinary voice. "Yeah." Face dry, Harry regarded up. "Why, you didn't understand my dad, did you?" I did, as a count of reality," said Lupin. "We had been buddies at Hogwarts." "Concentrate, Harry, perhaps we need to depart it right here for tonight. This allure is ridiculously superior. I shan't have cautioned setting you through this." "No," stated Harry. He got up once more. "I will have one extra go. I am not taking into consideration happy enough matters, that is what it's for. Hang on." He racked his brains. A definitely, virtually happy memory, one that he may want to become a terrific, strong Patronus, the moment while he'd first observed out he turned into a wizard, and could be leaving the Dursleys for Hogwarts. If that wasn't a happy memory, he didn't recognize what become, concentrating very hard on how he had felt whilst he'd found out he'd be leaving Privet Drive. Harry were given to his toes, and confronted the packing case yet again. "Ready," said Lupin, who appeared as although he were doing this towards his higher judgment. "Concentrating hard? All right, pass." He pulled off the lid of the case for the 0.33 time, and the Dementor rose out of it. The room fell bloodless and dark. "Expecto Patronum!" Harry bellowed. "Expecto Patronum! Expecto Patronum!" The screaming interior Harry's head had commenced once more, except this time, it sounded as though it had been coming from a badly tuned radio, softer and louder and softer again, and he should nevertheless see the Dementor. It had halted, and then a big, silver shadow got here, bursting out of the give up of Harry's wand, to hover between him and the Dementor, and although Harry's legs felt like water, he was nevertheless on his toes, although for the way plenty longer. He wasn't positive. Ridiculous, roared Lupin, springing forward. There was a loud crack, and Harry's cloudy Patronus vanished at the sight of the Dementor. He sank right into a chair, feeling as exhausted as though he'd simply run a mile, and felt his legs shaking. Out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Professor Lupin forcing the boggart back into the packing case with his wand. It had turned into a silvery orb once more. "Wonderful," Lupin said, striding over to wherein Harry sat. "Exceptional, Harry. That was really a start. Can we have any other move? Simply one greater move?" "No longer now," stated Lupin firmly. "You've had sufficient for one night time. Here." He passed Harry a large bar of Honeydukes first-class chocolate. "Devour the lot, or Madame Pomfrey can be after my blood. Equal time subsequent week?" "Okay," said Harry. He took a bite of the chocolate and watched Lupin extinguishing the lamps that had rekindled with the disappearance of the Dementor. An idea had simply came about to him. "Professor Lupin," he said, "in case you knew my dad, you ought to be acknowledged serious, black as nicely." Lupin grew to become very quickly. "What offers you that idea?" he said sharply. "Nothing, I mean, I just knew they had been buddies at Hogwarts, too." Lupin's face comfortable. "Yes, I knew him," he said quickly. "Or I notion I did." "You'll hire be off, Harry, it's getting past due." Harry left the lecture room, walking alongside the hall and around a nook, then took a detour at the back of a suit of armor and sank down on its plinth to finish his chocolate, wishing he hadn't stated black, as Lupin changed into obviously not eager at the issue. Then Harry's mind wandered back to his dad and mom. He felt tired and strangely empty, even though he became so complete of chocolate, terrible though it changed into to hear his dad and mom final moments. Replayed in his head, these had been the most effective times Harry had heard. Their voices on account that he was a totally small baby. But he'd never be capable of produce a right Patronus if he half of wanted to listen his dad and mom. Once more. They're dead, he informed himself sternly. They're useless and being attentive to echoes of them may not convey them returned. You would higher get a grip on yourself in case you need that Quidditch cup. He stood up, filled the final little bit of chocolate into his mouth, and headed back to Gryffindor Tower. Ravenclaw played Slytherin every week after the start of time period. Slytherin won, even though narrowly. In keeping with Wood, this changed into exact news for Gryffindor, who could take 2D location if they beat Ravenclaw too. He consequently elevated the range of team practices to 5 a league. This intended that with Lupin's anti-Dementor training, which in themselves had been more draining than 6 Quidditch practices, Harry had just one night a week to do all his homework. Then again, he was displaying the pressure nearly as an awful lot as Hermione, whose vast workload sooner or later regarded to be getting to her. Each night, without fail, Hermione changed into to be seen in a nook of the commonplace room, several tables spread with books, arithmancy charts, rune dictionaries, diagrams of muggles lifting heavy items, and document upon document of significant notes. She barely spoke to everybody and snapped when she became interrupted. "How's she doing it?" Ron muttered to Harry one evening as Harry Saturday, completing an uncongenial essay on undetectable poisons for Snape. Harry regarded up. Hermione was barely seen at the back of a tottering pile of books. Doing what? Getting to all her lessons. Ron said. I heard her talking to Professor Vector, that arithmancy which, this morning, they were going on about the previous day's lesson. However, Hermione cannot be been there, due to the fact she became with us in care of magical creatures. And Ernie Macmillan informed me she's by no means overlooked a Muggle research class. However, half of them are at the equal time as divination, and he or she's in no way neglected one in all them both. Harry did not have time to fathom the mystery of Hermione's impossible schedule. In the meantime, he surely needed to get on with Snape's essay. Seconds later, however, he changed into interrupted again, this time by Wood. Awful information, Harry. I've just been to look Professor McGonagall approximately the firebolt. She were given a bit shirty with me. Told them I would got my priorities wrong. Appeared to suppose I cared more approximately winning the cup than I do about you staying alive. Just due to the fact I advised her I failed to care if it threw you off, so long as you caught the snitch first. Timber shook his head in disbelief. Absolutely, the way she changed into yelling at me, you would suppose I would stated something terrible, then I requested her how a lot longer. She turned into going to hold it. He screwed up his face and imitated Professor McGonagall's extreme voice, so long as vital, wouldn't. I reckon it is time you ordered a new broom, Harry. There may be an order shape on the lower back of which broomstick you may get a Nimbus 1001, like Malfoy's were given. I'm no longer buying whatever Malfoy thinks is right, said Harry flatly. January dwindled imperceptibly into February, with no trade within the bitterly bloodless climate. The in-shape towards Ravenclaw was drawing closer and nearer. However, Harry nonetheless hadn't ordered a brand new broom. He changed into now asking Professor McGonagall for news of the firebolt after every transfiguration lesson. Ron's status with any luck at his shoulder, Hermione speeding beyond with her face averted. No, Potter, you cannot have it back, but, Professor McGonagall informed him. The 12th time this occurred, before he'd even opened his mouth. We've got checked for most of the same old curses. However, Professor Flitwick believes the broom is probably wearing a hurling hex. I shall inform you as soon as we've got finished checking it. Now, please stop badgering me. To make matters even worse, Harry's anti-Dementor classes have been no longer going, nearly in addition to he had hoped. Numerous sessions on, he changed into able to produce an indistinct, silvery shadow on every occasion the bogged Dementor approached him, but his Patronus became too feeble to drive the Dementor away. All it did was hover, like a semi-transparent cloud, draining Harry of electricity as he fought to hold it there. Harry felt indignant with himself, guilty approximately his mystery desire to listen his parents' voices again. You are looking ahead to too much of yourself, said Professor Lupin, sternly, of their 4th week of practice. For a 13-12 months vintage wizard, even an vague Patronus is a big achievement. You are not passing out anymore, are you? I idea a Patronus might price the Dementors down or something, said Harry dispiritedly. Cause them to disappear. The authentic Patronus does do that, stated Lupin. However, you have achieved a superb deal in a completely quick area of time. If the Dementors installed an look at your subsequent Quidditch fit, you may be capable of maintain them at bay lengthy sufficient to get again to the floor. You stated it is tougher if there are masses of them, stated Harry. I have complete self-assurance in you, said Lupin, smiling. Right here, you have earned a drink, something from the 3 broomsticks. You may not have attempted it before //. He pulled bottles out of his briefcase. Butterbeer, stated Harry, without wondering. Yeah, I like that stuff. Lupin raised an eyebrow. Oh, Ron and Hermione added me some back from Hogsmeade, Harry lied. Speedy. I see, said Lupin, even though he nonetheless regarded slightly suspicious. Well, permits drink to a Gryffindor victory in opposition to Ravenclaw. Now not that I am alleged to take facets as a teacher. He brought hastily. They drank the butterbeer in silence until Harry voiced something he'd been thinking for a while. What is under a Dementor's hood? Professor Lupin decreased his bottle thoughtfully. Nicely, the best folks that sincerely recognize are in no condition to tell us. You notice, the Dementor lowers its hood handiest to use its last and worst weapon. What's that? They name it the Dementor's kiss, said Lupin, with a barely twisted smile. It is what Dementors do to the ones they want to smash fully. I assume there have to be some kind of mouth under there, because they clamp their jaws upon the mouth of the sufferer and suck out his soul. Harry by accident spat out a piece of butterbeer. What, they kill? Oh no, stated Lupin. Much worse than that. You could exist without your soul, as long as your brain and coronary heart are nonetheless operating. However, you'll have no experience of self anymore, no reminiscence, no whatever. There's no risk at all of healing. You will just exist as an empty shell. And your soul is gone for all time, lost. Lupin drank a little more butterbeer, then stated, it's the fate that awaits Sirius Black. It become within the everyday prophet this morning. The Ministry have given the Dementors permission to carry out it if they find him. Harry sat greatly surprised for a second at the concept of someone having their soul sucked out via their mouth, but then he thought of Black. He deserves it, he said all at once. You believe you studied so, said Lupin lightly. Do you virtually think everyone merits that? Sure, stated Harry defiantly. For a few things. He might have liked to have informed Lupin about the communication he'd overheard approximately Black and the 3 broomsticks, approximately Black betraying his dad and mom, but it'd have worried, revealing that he'd gone to Hogsmeade without permission, and he knew Lupin would not be very impressed with the aid of that. So he completed his butterbeer, thanked Lupin, and left the records of magic study room. Harry one half wished that he hadn't requested what become underneath a Dementor's hood, the solution had been so terrible, and he was so misplaced and unpleasant. Thoughts of what it might sense want to have your soul sucked out of you. That he walked headlong into Professor McGonagall halfway up the steps. "Do watch in which you are going, Potter." "Sorry, Professor. I've just been looking for you within the Gryffindor not unusual room, properly, right here it's Miles. We have accomplished the whole lot we ought to consider, and there would not appear to be something wrong with it at all. You've got a very good pal. Someplace, Potter." Harry's jaw dropped. She changed into protecting out his firebolt, and it appeared as incredible as ever. "I can have it back?" Harry stated weakly. "Critically?" "Critically," stated Professor McGonagall, and she was surely smiling. "I dare say you may need to get the texture of it earlier than Saturday's match, might not you? And Potter, do attempt to win, might not you? Or we'll be out of the running for the December 8th months in a row," as Professor Snape became kind. "Sufficient to strike a chord in me only ultimate night." Speechless, Harry carried the firebolt lower, back upstairs, toward Gryffindor Tower. As he grew to become a Nook, he saw Ron rushing towards him, grinning from ear to ear. "She gave it to you? Exquisite. Listen, am I able to nonetheless have a move on it? Day after today?" "Yeah, whatever," stated Harry, his coronary heart lighter than it had been in a month. "You realize what we must make up with Hermione." She changed into Handiest trying to help. "Yeah, all proper," said Ron. "She's within the not unusual room how working, for a exchange." They turned into the corridor to Gryffindor Tower and noticed Neville Longbottom pleading with Sir Cadogan, who appeared to be refusing him entrance. "I wrote them down." Neville changed into announcing tearfully. "But I must have dropped them someplace." "A probable tale," roared Sir Cadogan. Then, recognizing Harry and Ron, "Correct. Even, my great young yeoman. Come clap this loon in irons. He is making an attempt to pressure entry to the chambers within." "Oh, close up," said Ron as he and Harry drew degree with Neville. "I have misplaced the passwords." Neville told them miserably. "I made him inform me what passwords he become going to use this week, due to the fact he keeps changing them, and now I don't know what I've done with them." "Odds bodikins," said Harry to Sir Cadogan, who appeared extremely disenchanted and reluctantly swung ahead to let them into the common room. There was a sudden, excited murmur as every head grew to become in the subsequent second, Harry was surrounded with the aid of humans exclaiming over his firebolt. "Where'd you get it, Harry? Will you let me have a go? Have you ever ridden it yet, Harry? Ravenclaw don't have any hazard, they're all on clean sweep 7s. Can I simply hold it, Harry?" After 10 minutes or so, at some point of which the firebolt was handed round and favored from every angle, the crowd dispersed and Harry and Ron had a clear view of Hermione, the best individual who hadn't rushed over to them, bent over her work and carefully keeping off their eyes. Harry and Ron approached her table and at closing, she regarded up. "I were given it lower back," said Harry, grinning at her and maintaining up the firebolt. "See, Hermione? There wasn't something incorrect with it," stated Ron. "Properly, there might have been," stated Hermione. "I imply, at least you understand now that it's secure." "Yeah, I think so," stated Harry. "Identification better placed it upstairs." "I'll take it," said Ron eagerly. "I have got to provide Scabbers his rat tonic." He took the firebolt and, retaining it as though it had been made from glass, carried it away up the boys' staircase. "Am I able to sit down, then?" Harry requested Hermione. "I assume so," said Hermione, transferring a first-rate stack of parchment off a chair. Harry seemed around on the cluttered desk, on the long arithmancy essay, on which the ink was nevertheless glistening, on the even longer Muggle studies, Essay, provide an explanation for why muggles need energy and on the rune. Translation, Hermione became now poring over. How are you getting through all these items? Harry requested her. Oh, properly, you understand working difficult, said Hermione. Close up, Harry saw that she looked nearly as tired as Lupin. Why don't you just drop multiple subjects? Harry requested, watching her lifting books as she looked for her rune dictionary. I couldn't try this, said Hermione, searching scandalized. Arithmancy seems horrible, stated Harry, choosing up a totally complicated-looking range chart. Oh no, it's outstanding, stated Hermione earnestly. It is my favorite issue. It's, however, exactly what was remarkable, approximately arithmancy. Harry in no way determined out. At that specific second, a strangled yell echoed down the lads' staircase. The complete not unusual room fell silent, staring, petrified, at the front. Then got here hurried footsteps, developing louder and louder, and then Ron got here leaping into view, dragging with him a bedsheet. Appearance, he bellowed, striding over to Hermione's table. Look, he yelled, shaking the sheets in her face. Ron, what? Scabbers. Appearance. Scabbers. Hermione turned into leaning far away from Ron, searching fully bewildered. Harry, seeing down on the sheet Ron changed into preserving. There was something red on it. Something that looked horribly like blood. Ron yelled into the stunned silence. He is long past. And also you. Recognize. What changed into on the floor? And no, stated Hermione in a trembling voice. Ron threw something down onto Hermione's rune translation. Hermione and Harry leaned ahead. Lying on top of the weird, spiky shapes had been several long, ginger cat hairs.